All right, welcome to episode 2 of the Team Avatar show. We have a different guest. We switched out one brother for the other, but I'm
Mhm.
joined by two different Logans. So, yeah, you can introduce yourselves if you'd like.
Hey, I'm the other Logan, the new one.
I'm the original Logan.
Yeah.
The one that's been on here quite a while.
Yep.
But we're going to do a different bit of formatting than I've kind of done in the past with old Logan. When it comes to reviewing the entire episode, it's just not doesn't make any sense to do that with all the episodes dropping at one time. So we're gonna just do kind of a general like things we liked, things we're maybe okay on, or things we didn't like. And I'm gonna just say right off the bat, I was pretty disappointed by episode 2. I thought it was a definite downgrade in quality from the first episode. And I don't know if you guys agree on this, but I think they tried to combine a lot of different plot points or elements into one episode, and it just didn't work because none of the elements really got enough time to work. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, especially with Sokka,
I
with
agree.
his
That's the big
character.
one.
I mean,
Yeah.
I do and I don't. I think they definitely did a lot more than they should have, but I think they handled it pretty well. It's just the stuff we knew they were changing from news articles and stuff before that. That kind of was a big downer for me.
Yeah.
I
I
think
don't know.
the way I like him interpreting it is it's like my issue was it maybe wouldn't have been as bad if they had maybe been a little bit more accurate to source material, the stuff that needed to happen.
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, you can basically divide this episode into three different parts where it's like one part is kind of the Fire Nation side, that stuff. You have another plot which is kind of Aang and Katara and Aang trying to figure out how to be the Avatar.
Hmm.
And that plot line really was advanced because a lot of that stuff happens with a whole different plot. But
Yep.
they took what happened in there and then they put it into episode 2, and it's kind of weird because the stuff like that didn't happen until like episode 9 or 10.
Hmm.
And so they put a lot of that into it while also trying to develop Katara and Aang's relationship. And then you also had then on the back part of this just this like love interest stuff with Sokka, which was I think it was the weakest part of the episode. But before we get into all that, I'd like to hear from new Logan. What were some things that you liked from this episode?
Uh, oh, yeah, I guess towards the end where they have General Oz or Fire Lord Ozai, I liked his character. I thought his character did good. Zuko once again was, I want to say, the best actor in that episode.
Agreed.
I don't know. His
Hmm.
character is like top notch of his acting, and then I'll rate Iroh as second best. Uh, there's not really much I could say I really liked from this episode due to them like really cutting back on the characters. I guess another thing I did like is Katara getting flashbacks of when her mom's dying, right? So it's giving her excuse why she can't focus on water bending. As in the show, she's like, you know, she's not good. Like in the cartoon one, she's not like that great at it, but it goes more in depth of she keeps thinking about her mom dying in the TV show, which that kind of makes more sense. Where waterbending's about being connected with your body and the elements, basically. So that's why I do kind of like about that one, especially when Zuko like corners her whenever
Yep.
they're first sieging Kyoshi Island. It's a nice little touch to PTSD drama, you know. But I wish
Yep.
they did more with Sokka, especially with Suki in it. I don't know. I didn't mind the scene where Suki and Sokka were throwing their boomerangs and their little fans and stuff. I thought that was like a Sokka moment right there. How he starts going off the rails of saying how he hunts and how he's a warrior. Then he just starts talking to himself at the end of it. That felt like true Sokka, but then the rest of it was just bland. He's like one dimensional. I feel like in the show, he comes off as like a prick. No offense to the actor, but that's what he's that's what he's got to
Okay,
work
okay.
with.
Hold on. Let me
Yeah,
stop you there because we're getting into the negative territory. We got a lot to say for the negative territory.
yeah,
A
Anything
little bit.
else you want to
yeah.
say for like stuff that you liked, or anything that you would just be like, "Oh, that was good."
Not not really. I guess the dream state with Aang talking to Kyoshi, I thought that was pretty good. Well done. But then her like showing what's at stake because he keeps doubting himself, not wanting to harm people, and she's like, "Dude, you're gonna have to hurt some people." Like, kind of getting ready for that uh part of the journey. So I like that part, but the rest, God, no.
All right, all right.
Yeah,
All
no.
right, we'll get
Yeah.
there. All right. New or not a new, old Logan.
Thank
Any
you.
good things that you liked from the episode?
Um, I always loved the Kyoshi Island episodes. It was really cool to see it in the live
I
action.
agree.
We do get introduced to Momo, which is my favorite character, so I was happy to finally get to see him. A little weird looking, but I still just like the character. Um, you know, I just really liked the episode in the sense of the Kyoshi Island. It was a little disappointing in some parts, but we'll talk about that in the negative section.
Yes, sir. I agree with that part of it. Like, I will say, very similar like Percy Jackson, the Lotus Hotel was my favorite section of Percy Jackson, the first book. This is like my favorite early episode, like of the first 10. Distinctively remember being a favorite of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it in the original, it does a lot for so many different characters when it comes to their development, of developing who they are as a character. It's not like a grand scale type of episode when it comes to like the world, but it's just very personal. And I'm a big sucker for character writing. And so
That
again,
is
that's
true.
gonna kind of get to my negatives as to why I didn't like this episode that much. But I will say things I really liked. Visuals were still on point,
Oh
for
yeah.
the most part. I thought for the most part liked the entire Fire Nation plot of this episode. It's probably again because I think those are where the best actors are,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they did some interesting stuff with those characters that I enjoyed. I like the kind of the dynamic. They've kind of really, for the most part, it's not perfect. They've kind of kept that, I guess, relationship pretty intact from the originals between Zuko and also Iroh. So I thought
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty good. Um, there was bits and pieces I liked of like Katara, like kind of what Logan talked about. So I kind of won't bring it up again, but I agreed with a lot of that. I thought was good. Again, I just going to Kyoshi Island, it looked really good. It kind of encapsulated what the original kind of was. I think a lot of the visual stuff they do really well in the show. But I think that's kind of where I'm ending at with my good stuff. I can't remember too many other things that I thought were really good in this episode.
I will cut in real quick there. For our missing member, I will say we finally get to see the Fire Nation soldiers' skull mask, and they are
Yes.
pretty
Yep,
cool. Not as good as the
they were
OG,
cool.
but they are pretty cool looking. I will say
They
that.
were cool. I
Oh yeah.
agree.
And I don't mean to cut in as well, but I forgot to say that the grandma, I think she did better this time reading the dialogue, like her script. Because
Yeah.
like,
That's
yeah,
true.
because it's actually a note, so she's reading it. Well, in episode 1, she's like in there but has no emotion. Instantly does a 180. Starts talking about how the four nations used to live together, like boom, boom,
Hmm.
boom, 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 with before anyone could process it. So that felt rushed. However, in this episode, I think Grandma did better.
Felt more natural.
Yeah.
All right, so that gets us to our bad section, the section that I think will probably be longer. Um, we'll start with old Logan first, since we did new Logan the first
Okay.
last time. This is getting confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
But go ahead, old Logan.
Okay.
What did you not like?
So before I get into the negative, I do want to say I had more positives in this episode than negatives, but I just kind of want to focus on the negatives more as this episode's kind of meant for, just because it was a very simple thing to do is just follow the cartoon. You know, it's a lot like the Percy Jackson show where you weren't supposed to do what the movie did
Yeah,
and then ended up doing as the movie did. And so I just wanted to get that out there.
that's kind of the vibe I got as well.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess starting with the negative stuff, the whole scroll part, I enjoyed it. It was cool, the waterbending scroll for Katara. I liked it. It was very interesting, but that's not how they originally do it. And I get for only having 8 episodes, they really have to smush all this stuff together. I just kind of wish they kept the OG version, even if it only took like 5 minutes for that instead of a whole episode with her getting it from the pirates at a dock, I guess. I don't even know what you call a little
Yes.
shopping area.
It's also an interesting part of Katara's character because
Hmm.
she actually steals it, which is an
Which is very
interesting little
surprising
point
for
of
her.
that.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, but
So I just thought that was a part we really missed out on because that was a little bit of a different development with Katara. So I feel like Maybe since it was just so different than her, they kind of kept it out, which would make sense, but I kind of wish we saw it. Because it also showed her dedication to learning waterbending because she was stealing the scroll and doing it in the middle of the night to make sure she could perfect it.
Yep.
Moving on from that, one of my biggest things is the whole surprise attack from the Kyoshi warriors on our, I don't know, what would you call them? The gang, I guess?
Yes,
The
our gang,
trio?
our
Yeah,
band
yeah,
of,
yeah.
misfits.
Yeah, our band of misfits. It was still very good, but I get that the whole Netflix thing with having Sokka not be as sexist as he was in the show. But that was a very key point for him in this episode and later on in the following season and later 2 seasons. I was kind of wishing they would have kept it that way because it was just a big, very big moment for him. But instead, they changed it, making him less sexist. He's still a little, but it wasn't really
Oh,
towards, it wasn't like a sexist argue. It was just like, I'm just better kind of view of him to me.
I didn't even get that vibe, to be honest.
Really?
I'm going to talk about that when I get into my
Okay.
my thing, but you keep going.
All right. Moving on from that, the whole Avatar state in episode 2. Once again, I get we have to push it with only 8 episodes, but that happens a lot later, just like the water scroll. So I was a
Yeah,
little
that's like
disappointed.
midway through the
Yes, yeah, that
season
was like
type
episode
territory.
9 or 10 as well. I kind of wish they had kept it in the middle because that was kind of like one of his big things for the first season was learning what he can actually do with the Avatar state and everything.
Yep.
So I kind of wish that was later, but we at least got to see it. It was pretty cool. Rest of the episode I thought was pretty nice, so I have nothing negative for the rest.
All right, we'll get into new Logan. This is your time to shine. We know you wanted to get into those negatives earlier, but this is your
Yep.
time.
all right. First negative: Sokka didn't wear the Kyoshi outfit at all when he was training.
True.
Oh crap, I forgot about that. Yeah,
100%.
Yep.
that
And
is
the
now my
second
biggest
thing,
problem.
yeah, and the second thing is that's going to be a huge problem with the show is since they're making Sokka one-dimensional, he's going to feel bland later on in the other episodes because,
Hmm.
yeah, he just, bland.
Put it this way, right? I feel like, as you go through the season, you have those certain episodes that are really for one certain character and their
Hmm.
development. And this is kind of one of those. Like, this is by far one of Sokka's biggest
Right. All right. Yeah.
episodes.
Yes.
So,
Because later on he's going to be like more sarcastic, like they because in the show he's kind of sarcastic here and there with his attitude. In the show they just make it seem like he's annoyed with everything, just wants to get back to the village a lot of times. Like especially after they just drop Aang off, they're like, all right, Katara, we dropped him off. Now let's get going. It's like, what? Because there's now whenever he's sarcastic, seeing there's no need for it, in my opinion, with it, since he no longer has that pride of him being a man or like a boy at least, and how he's the warrior of his tribe and how he had to protect it and whatnot. It's just he just feels off and out of place, like he's just stuck up and annoyed with almost everything
Hmm.
that's going on around him in the show.
agreed. So Logan's webcam decided to freeze at this point of the video, so you guys get to look at that nice blank image of that face, and I'm just gonna leave it there because it's very funny. So enjoy the rest of the video, guys. Just want to let you know.
It's mostly just the characters in like Sokka Manly right now because
Yeah.
I feel bad for the actor for what they're like giving him because I think he could do better.
Oh yeah.
But But yeah, if you compare his acting to Zuko, like Zuko's the top tier uh
Yeah.
right now on the show with his acting. His character feels like his actual character, especially when he got angry at Katara. But yeah, just they really watered down Zuko so much to where later on where he starts to become like sarcastic, it
You
just
mean
doesn't
Sokka?
feel right. Yeah, Sokka.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It just doesn't feel natural with him anymore.
So I'm gonna build off this because I know we talked about this a little bit off camera, but I definitely noticed like line deliveries from some of our main characters being way worse in this episode than the last episode.
Yeah.
Like in the first episode, I didn't notice it as much. I wasn't like as negative on it. But I think especially this is the biggest problem. The main character Aang, for me, his acting, and I don't know if it was the actor, I don't know if it's what he's being given. It was not great in this episode. For me personally, it didn't work well. It felt very like not forced, but it just didn't feel natural. Like it didn't feel like he was in the role, I guess. And so I think for a lot of characters, or not a lot of characters, but kind of our main characters. There was a lot of that I noticed in this episode. I think the main part of this episode I just didn't like. I think, all three of us have or pretty much talked about already. But the entire Sokka plotline just doesn't feel natural. Like, this is the best way I can put it, is in Attack of the Clones, everybody always trashes on Anakin and Padme because it feels forced. It feels kind of weird. That's how I felt in this episode with the Sokka love interest thing. Because it's like instantly, oh, they're making like flirty eyes at each other. And then all of a sudden, like Sokka's like changing or he's washing up or something. And you got a woman just like watching him. What is like, it's just weird. Okay. And then she sneaks up on him in the forest and it just doesn't feel like natural interactions between people.
And then I'm gonna add on to that bath scene how he says you need a bell. It comes off blunt because you never see him really be sarcastic or anything in the show because how dry he is. And then that he mentions it again, I forgot when, in the same episode. He's like, "You really need a bell." It's like, I don't know, his character just cringed me out, especially when those two were training together. That whole training scene was,
I agree.
it just felt weird because he's saying that he's a warrior, and she's also a warrior, but since he's not saying, "Oh, you're a girl, you can't do X, Y, Z," it just feels like he's more of an idiot, to put it bluntly.
Yeah, it comes off as like he's an idiot, and then the girl he's crushing on, I don't remember her name. Logan, do you remember her name?
Suki?
Logan?
Yes.
Yes.
Suki.
Okay.
Suki.
So she just comes off as just like she's very horny in this episode. That's the way
I mean,
she
that's
comes
that's
off.
fair,
as.
yeah.
Like
I
in
didn't even
the
think of
original,
that, yeah.
it's more like oh, Sokka's just being an asshole. Okay,
Yeah,
he's just being
Sokka's-
like,
yeah.
I'm better
Teasing
than
her.
you. I'm a man. Women can't fight. All that. And this is what I don't understand with this show, is that is a really powerful thing that you can do. Is you can go, okay, yeah, this isn't how it's supposed to be. Men aren't like better at women at everything and all that stuff. Like that's a really good, powerful character, development there. And so I don't know why you would change it to this. If you're going to change it, this is what I always say. If you're going to change something, don't do something stupid.
Yeah.
And this was by far the weakest plotline of the entire episode. And see, it was like, okay. And then so like Logan said, it's just very cringe, in my opinion, battle scene or training scene between the two.
It was,
And
yeah,
so
it was definitely
I didn't
something.
buy their relationship at all. So to me, anytime they were on screen together, it just went nowhere for me. I agree on the Aang stuff. With the Avatar state, it felt way too quick. Felt very rushed. It kind of felt like just an exposition dump almost to me. It just felt out of place for the most part. So this is something else I didn't really like in the episode. They tried to like half do it, but they didn't really like establish it well. Because in the original, something I really liked about this episode specifically in the original is like Aang and Katara like start to they don't not like each other, but they have a little bit of a rough patch here because Aang is taking in all of his fame and popularity, and that directly correlates into the Fire Nation knowing where he is. And so the end of the episode, basically the story of it is, okay, they're gonna have to start, not exposing who they are. They need to do disguises and stuff when they go places, so they don't attract people to come burn towns and stuff, getting people killed. And so they just completely went away with that in this episode. And so Aang didn't really feel like he got much character development in this episode at all.
Nope.
And then, so yeah, out of the three, Katara was the one that I thought had the best episode. The other two, I was just like, not so good.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I can't really think of anything else I didn't like. But go ahead, Logan.
Now, is it on? I can't remember in the cartoon one, but isn't it like on Kyoshi Island where Aang and her are practicing waterbending and Aang's nailing it and she's not? Like, there's no.
No, that's
that's the waterbending.
yeah,
scroll
that's the
episode,
scroll episode I was talking about earlier.
That's another time when they have a rough patch. Yeah,
That's like episode 7 or 8. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, but
it's in there.
Yeah, but I'm saying, was that supposed to take place during this time, or?
It didn't seem like it
All right.
because he never
I'm
really
probably just-
he never really looks at the scroll in the episode.
That's what I'm saying. They're just
Yeah.
rushing the show. It's starting to give me brain fog of the original cartoon one. I haven't
Yep.
seen it in a while, but
No, and I
yeah,
also
it's just
Yeah, I will say real quick, I'm gonna cut in. I did see one thing negative that I forgot about. The whole Aang character now. He's all serious all of a sudden, and I get for smushing it once again. But in the cartoon, he's all fun, loving, let me go do these child things. Like they go to Kyoshi Island to ride the giant
Yeah,
or the elephant koi
that's another
fish.
thing I forgot about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they go for that. But in this episode, they go there because they see the big stone, which was really wooden, Avatar statue. And he's like, oh, maybe they'll have something there. Like, that's not why they went. Come on, just keep that in the track. Like, you're going Percy Jackson with that there. Don't
Yeah,
do
Aang
that.
out of the three characters to me is the one that doesn't feel the most like the original. Like Sokka
Mhm.
is kind of getting there as well,
He's semi funny,
but
but it's not good funny yet.
I have to disagree. I think Sokka's the weakest one.
I mean, I don't blame you if you think that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I
I
mean,
think both of them are kind of like
what's throwing me off with Aang though is his voice. That's really what's
Yeah.
throwing me off. Is I keep
Yeah.
learning the cartoon one now. I got like this other one. It's like I don't know. Like I think Aang's doing okay, but Sokka is really the one I don't see. And it's sad because the PS2 Sokka from the PlayStation 2 game is more animated than him. And in that game, if you don't know, their mouths don't even move. So
I
that's
think it's
my opinion.
hilarious that the show is less funny than the original, and the originals are animated. It's like
Mhm.
you would think you would be able to do comedy better, or literally take
something.
lines from the original show and put them in here that are funny.
Yep. Yeah.
Like it
Well,
just isn't happening.
Yeah, I will say if they take away my cactus juice scene, which I don't remember which episode, but if they take that away, I'm gonna be very angry about
that's
that.
season 2, I think.
Is that season 2?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's during the Earth
All
Temple.
right, listen here,
Yeah,
Netflix.
I don't remember.
If you
I don't
mess up
remember what you're
season
talking
2 with the
about, Logan,
cactus
so.
juice, you'll have a pissed person forever.
I am excited for the next episode. If it does what the next episode was in the original, off of whatever, I don't know.
I think it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's stuff with the Earth Kingdom, then we're
Yeah.
on
Oh yeah.
we're good here.
Yep.
But
Yep. That's where it's
and
going.
yeah, and I hate to. It's not going to be a huge spoiler, but what I was saying about Sokka's attitude, it's really going to show in the next episode. Is what I'm talking about. How dry his
okay.
character is, because if he's not funny now or sarcastic now, it's I don't know. His character just seems everyone. All right, so this is another thing I noticed besides Zuko's character and a few others. Like I think Suki was okay as well, but like the main like Aang, Katara, definitely Sokka, they all seem stiff, like
Yeah.
not animated at all, like
Yep.
ooh kind of thing. They're all like, especially Sokka. I hate hating on him, but his character is like straight faced the entire time, and it's just like, oh wow, oh kind of thing. It's just yeah.
Their emotional range of acting doesn't seem that great so far. Like that's the way I'd put it. Like, yeah, I don't know. All I'm gonna say is my favorite character is Katara, and she's doing okay so far. So, I guess I can't hate that much. But anything else you guys want to add to negatives before we wrap it up and give it our ratings?
No,
Yeah, no, not for.
I think we
But
covered most of
just,
it.
yeah, this Ozai was good, and the little seconds that he got, I thought his character was pretty good.
Yep, Ozai and Shao were pretty good scenes. So.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Again, I thought all the Fire
Iroh-
Nation stuff was pretty good.
Oh, you know what? I
and
just thought of one actually. It was a little bit of the Fire Nation. The way they introduced, I don't even say like the little battle between Prince Zuko and General Zhao is very different than the show. And
Yeah.
they could have kept it the same length and it still would have been perfectly fine. Because in this, it's a very passive aggressive Zhao instead of the cartoon Zhao where he more or less imprisons Zuko and Iroh for a little so he can get a head
Yeah.
start on trying
And
to
then
get
they
the
have a fight.
Avatar. Yeah, and there was a whole
They actually have they have a couple fights.
Agni Kai, isn't it? Like the dueling thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm.
I get for keeping that out, but that would have been kind of cool to see. But
would've been
I
pretty cool.
understand why they cut that out. It wasn't overly majorly needed, so it was kind of that was a little
It would've-
disappointing there for me.
It would have been nice to get the original, but I didn't have any problems with the way they did it. I thought
No,
I thought it was solid as well.
it was
That's kind of
still-
the same thing
yeah.
as I had with episode 1, where it was like they changed something, and I was like, I would have liked the original, but it was still good.
I'll say it's still
Yeah.
good. It's just I really would have preferred the original to that.
Oh, another thing I kind of had a problem with was the opening to episode 2. How Zuko's trashing his room, and then Iroh, he's like too calm speaking to him, like very calm. It's like, don't worry, Zuko, you'll find it. But I'm glad to see, though, that later on in the episode, he becomes more of an actual Iroh in a way where he's like, Zuko, come here, look at this, and then tries to get him to taste this food. where
Yeah.
they're in the Fire
Yeah.
Nation area. So Iroh is definitely stepping up. Yeah, just right now Zuko and Iroh, best 2 actors so far in this episode with Zhao.
100% agree.
Yep.
Yeah,
I 100% agree. The Fire Nation
Oh
are
yeah.
getting all the good time.
I know that's why they took
As they
over.
should. You know what? Fire Nation.
Yeah, they took over.
All right, well, let's give our ratings and then we'll get out of here. But we'll start with New Logan. Well, what would you give the episode out of a 10?
6.
6, okay.
Yep.
Old Logan?
So I'm gonna drop down to Percy Jackson 6.5 to 7 maybe.
That's
feel like
exactly
it-
where I'm at. So we're
Yep.
back on the same wavelength. I'll
Oof.
say a 6.5. I think for me, which is crazy because I gave episode 1 an 8.7. So that's
No, I'll say I gave
insane
it
to
pretty
me.
good too. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Little
gave it an 8.5.
disappointing.
So
Yeah.
that's an insane drop off. Like
It really shows you.
yeah, it's unfortunate. But thank you guys all for watching. I hope you guys like the new format that we're doing these, and who knows who will be in the cast for the next episode. Bye, guys.
Yep. See ya.